In this video, we discuss the upcoming presidential election in Belarus. This election is set to take place in January 2025. It follows the controversial 2020 election. In that election, Alexander Lukashenko was declared the winner with 80% of the vote. This result sparked widespread accusations of fraud. It also led to months of protest and a severe crackdown on dissent. Thousands were arrested during that period. To avoid similar unrest, Lukashenko moved the 2025 election to January. This timing is intended to reduce the likelihood of protests in cold weather. Many of his political opponents remain imprisoned or have fled the country. Lukashenko, now 70 years old, is expected to secure a seventh term. He has been in power for nearly 3 decades. Belarus is situated between Russia and Ukraine, as well as NATO members Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland. It was part of the Soviet Union until its dissolution in 1991. Since then, Belarus has maintained close ties with Russia. Lukashenko has relied on Russian support throughout his presidency. This includes using Belarusian territory for Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. He has also agreed to host Russian tactical nuclear weapons. Lukashenko first came to power in 1994. He was elected during a time of economic turmoil. He promised to combat corruption and restore stability. Over the years, he has been described as Europe's last dictator. His regime has been marked by severe repression of dissent. Elections under his rule have been condemned as neither free nor fair. Lukashenko has restored Soviet-style controls on the economy. He has also discouraged the use of the Belarusian language in favor of Russian. The country's security agency retains the name KGB. Belarus is the only country in Europe that still enforces the death penalty. Executions are carried out with a gunshot to the back of the head. Following the violent suppression of dissent in 2020, Lukashenko's relationship with the West deteriorated. The 2020 election was widely viewed as rigged. It resulted in the largest protests in Belarusian history. Authorities arrested over 65,000 people. Many were beaten by police, and numerous independent media outlets were shut down. Currently, human rights activists estimate that around 1,300 political prisoners remain in Belarus. This includes Ales Bialyatsky, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate. He is the founder of the leading human rights group in the country, Vyasna. Although Lukashenko's current term does not end until summer, the election was moved up. Officials claim this allows him to exercise his powers effectively. Political analysts suggest that the January date was chosen to minimize protests. Lukashenko has recently pardoned 250 people described as political prisoners. However, this move comes amid ongoing repression. Authorities have targeted relatives and friends of political prisoners. Hundreds have been arrested for participating in online discussions. Unlike the 2020 election, Lukashenko faces only token opposition candidates. Many potential challengers have been barred from the ballot. The election process began with early voting on Tuesday and will conclude on Sunday. Opposition leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya, who is currently in exile, has called the election a farce. She urges Belarusians to vote against all candidates. Her husband, activist Siary Tsikhanouski, remains imprisoned after attempting to run in the last election. In December 2024, Lukashenko and Putin signed a treaty. This treaty provides security guarantees to Belarus, including potential use of Russian nuclear weapons. The political landscape in Belarus remains tense as the election approaches.